sport is where we started and sport is what we want to be. Fashion is a huge part of that, as sport entwines with street culture.
How do you include the consumer in the brand, in the product, in the storytelling part of the brand? Mike?
So you mentioned D2C. I mean, it's a very relevant topic at the moment. A lot of brands are trying to retain consumers in D2C because they have more ultimate end-to-end control of that entire consumer journey, from the first touch point when they enter their website, all the way through to the experience that they see from social interaction, all the way through to the video content, the final checkout, and then the logistical services at the end. But what's also important is brands are naive, that they might want to transfer consumers to that own brand element, but also privy to the fact that across the ecosystem, a lot of consumers like to shop multi-brand. So they want to be able to shop across different platforms to actually purchase different products from different brands. And the control element there is a lot tougher, especially for premium brands where content is so important and actually owning the consumer experience. So what's really important, and speaking from the voice of Adidas, and I'm sure a lot of other brands, is working in partnership with a lot of the retailers to actually ensure that we can still instill that premium content and the full end-to-end journey that we want to have on our own web shops on their sites as well. And I think what you see is in today's marketplace, some of the brands that Matthias showed up earlier on the screen, a lot of these retailers are the ones that are winning in today's environment. And a lot of these, or all of them actually that were shown previously, are heavily brand driven. And they work in partnership with the brands to actually include a lot of the brands' created content and also sometimes co-create content to make it localized and to differentiate themselves in the marketplace.
Felix.
Yes, please. I have so many points to make.
Yeah, definitely. As soon as a brand is selling a product, or as soon as you sell a product, what happens after the sales process? How do you approach probably the need of a consumer to get in touch with the brand if something is wrong, or get reactions?
Yeah, exactly. So to your and Mike's point as well, I think the beauty of this whole digital disruption, to name one big buzzword here, is that yes, physically we're moving away from the consumer for sure, but in a digital sense, we're moving so much closer. We have so much immediate, raw and unfiltered data in a granularity level that was never even reality before. And truth is, obviously, we're at a pretty early steps still, right? So certainly for a brand like Puma and others as well, this is something new. This is something pretty much at an experimental state. And there's numerous business functions within the companies which are starting something they have never done before. And I think the truth of the reality is that we are trying to reconnect everything and reconsolidate and making sense and having a coherent, a consistent story across all these. But this is the stage in development. So basically, to answer your question is, when I have sales from real end consumers, real people, the ones that even the wholesale functions in the end sell to, because it's in the end always going to be people that wear our products. It's never going to be a wholesaler themselves. I mean, sometimes they do, but still in the end it's people. It is not yet established structure for all the business units, all the wholesale functions to look at that data, which is so relevant to them. But it's getting better. So more and more business functions and the units, as in the marketing, the designers and product line managers, are looking at our data very curiously because they know this is real, this is unfiltered, and it's fast. They can look at a launch data literally the day we launch something and get immediate impact and can reshift some priorities potentially and work on the next campaign to be a little better. And this is something that we nurture, this is something that we support, and I think there's huge gain for all parties. Definitely. But there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah. If you look at the latest surveys in Germany from Textilwirtschaft, who are, from a consumer perspective, the best fashion brands, you end up with sports brands like Adidas and Nike. Or last week it was, who is the best fashion employer in Germany? And it's Adidas. So how do you keep the authenticity of being a true sports brand, but stretching the boundaries towards fashion without, and that's pretty difficult, I think, to control everything when it goes to retail and to platforms especially, without spoiling the brand?
It's a great question, and it's a real challenge, I think, now, especially over the last few years. So we've seen a huge boom in the leisure industry, and it's driven a huge amount of growth through the athleisure trend of people wearing sports product outside instead of just pure fashion product and apparel. I mean, ultimately speaking from the lens of Adidas, we are a sports company. That is at the heritage. I mean, we're celebrating a 70th birthday now. And sport is where we started, and sport is what we want to be. Fashion is a huge part of that as sport becomes entwines with street culture. But it's really important not to forget your roots and become a fashion company, because ultimately we are a sports company, and it's important to then look at how the marketplace is actually evolving, and how do you stay relevant still to a fashion consumer, but actually how do you then convert them still to buy into your brand and its values when they are playing sport or engaging in sporting activities throughout the week. But the points you mentioned in terms of, I mean, these are stats from an employee perspective. And I think the campus that we have in Herzogenaurach also embodies that. So from sports pitches to a healthy lifestyle to volleyball courts, I mean, you have to also embody the brand in terms of the people that work for it. Because ultimately the company is just a bunch of people working together to try and achieve one goal. And if they don't believe in that, and if they're not immersed within that on a day-to-day basis, I think you'll lose the values of that brand very quickly.
So coming back to the emotional translation from the physical experience to the online world, which role do bloggers, influencers, multipliers, stars play in the world of Adidas in terms to transport those emotions?
I think we're not too different from any other brand, be it sport or be it athleisure or fashion. I mean, it's a significant role. Just look at over the last 3 years, what Kanye West has done to our business in the States, what he's done also in Europe, and it's all about creating demand and hype. People want what's cool, people want what's on trend. Normally that's something you can't buy, that's human nature, you want what you can't get. But actually engaging with influencers through Instagram, I mean, the beauty of that is they have such a loyal following, and anything that they recommend or try on which looks good, in turn will translate into sales. So it's a critical part, I think, of any brand's strategy. It's becoming harder and harder to do, as there's a lot of brands actually trying to fight for that same influencer, because there might be a prominent influencer in the world of footwear and in fashion specifically, and you've got a multitude of brands. So how do you maybe compete to pick the right influencers who again can portray that brand message and engage with consumers? But the marketplace has completely changed. It's not a brand speaking to a consumer, it's not a retailer speaking to a consumer, it's a whole ecosystem that's connected, where you need to leverage also all of these influencers and sports stars, but also now more and more TV stars, music artists. These are individuals who are part of consumers' day-to-day lives. And when they embody your brand, that's what really convinces consumers to buy into your brand. Like you said, consumers are very privy to the fact if you just pay somebody a lot of money to wear your products, they're going to know it's commercial. But I mean, a big part of that, if I mentioned Kanye now with the recent announcement with Beyonce as well, I mean, these people they're creating product as well with us. So we're not creating something in our offices and giving it to them and saying wear it and sell it. They're co-creating it with us, and that's also important because these are superstars in the world of music. They are creators in what they do. Exactly. And it's important to translate that then into the product, and that's what gets you authenticity.
It's almost to get to that philosophic point of view, Steve Jobs' quote of don't hire great people and tell them what to do. It's similarly here. These are great people. These are figures of culture of our times. You don't want to only tell them what to place on their channels. You want to listen to them. You want to have a real collaboration there, and that works extremely well. But it's definitely not straightforward, and sometimes we're very, very surprised that something just shoots through the roof and has just outstanding impression and commercial impact. And sometimes, truth be told, we're surprised by the opposite. Sometimes something that is huge internally and really celebrated over a long time and planned just doesn't have the impact that you'd think it would have, which again makes clear the complexity there is.
I think the future is you get engaged on Instagram. This is unfortunately Adidas.com, Puma.com, even Kicks.com. We have a basketball magazine, five magazines, so we create also a lot of content. But on Instagram, this is where the content explodes every day, new stuff. So the kids gonna start probably on Instagram and follow whatever. And even if they follow Adidas, they're not even following Adidas. They're following Adidas. My people are gonna follow Adidas basketball because they're not caring about the whole Adidas. It's really fragmented. So they see what's happening there, and in the ideal world, out of this experience, with a couple of clicks, they basically have the product on their feed. They're gonna see, oh, that's interesting. They're gonna watch a video connected to it, and then they're gonna get the product really on a snap. And so the winner gonna be who has the best from Instagram to your own online retail shop, plus the best logistics worldwide, because they don't understand why is the shoe not available in Germany if I see it online. So you have to be able to really ship worldwide quickly and have it all interconnected. And I think this is like that. This is where I'm happy to be with the Zalando group, because eventually in a couple of years, all my products going to be all in warehouses all over the world, and the guy who clicks on it, he gets the direct shipping. But this is future talk.
So content seems to be more and more relevant today. So this goes to Mike and to Felix. Which content format works best today? And what do you think, which technology will work best in the future? The most promising one that you see when it comes to user-generated content and the consumption of events, emotion, and so on. Felix.
No, I'll have a minute to think after the answers.
So, I mean, right now it depends on the channel. It's so difficult to generalize. User-generated content drives authenticity, like we spoke about beforehand. But with a larger brand, we got multi-millions of euros to spend on premium content with assets is also important, because that's what consumers will resonate towards, and they aspire to all of these global A-list stars. So that's also critical. But what's more and more important as we come, as the digital world evolves, looking not only in Europe but globally as well, is relevancy and localization. So one video you cannot really copy and paste now across the globe, especially not even across Europe. So it's very costly to do it. But it's so important to drive resonance with the consumer to actually make sure that something you're shooting for the UK will not work in France. So it's ensuring that whatever you shoot is completely relevant to the consumer that you're trying to target in that geographical region, because the taste, the cultures, the actual fashion trends as well are so different. And it's a combination of brand-led content, whether that's video, whether that's social media posts, whether it's purely just engagement or teasers, but also user-generated to drive the full holistic authenticity.
And in the future?
The future, I mean, now we talk about Instagram. The Instagram is the be it and end all. You go back just a few years, it was Facebook. I mean, will Instagram be in this prominent position in a few years' time? I'd be very surprised. I think the way that the digital environment is evolving continuously, you've always got to look out for what is the next thing. And already Snapchat is the biggest thing amongst the 12 to 18-year-olds. But that already has been the case for the last 2 to 3 years. So that'll change. And as consumers grow up, like we mentioned, now digital is not a thing. It's not something we talk about, because the consumers who are growing up, it's standard for them. That is life. So what they will engage in the future are platforms which will be seamless to them. The mobile device, I think, is the core to everything, because it's something you have on you at all times, and therefore you're always connected. So finding what the next future platform is that'll be mobile deployed, but also allow you to stay connected, I think for brands would be critical.
Yeah, very, very good points. So all in all, I'd say yes, localized content is absolute key and can be dramatically different across the segment. If you talk about a performance product, which is highly technical, so people would expect technical descriptions, fabrics and compositions, versus a lifestyle thing. And also, yes, you cannot copy paste this across regions. We know, for example, Asian regions have an entirely different way of perceived content. It's very, very long. They scroll a lot, which is something that in Europe, I can say, would just not be accepted. You want to have it short and concise. You don't want to blast, however, these short marketing buzzwords at people, which mean nothing to them. So it's a very fine way. What I definitely see a big trend going towards is model photography, which is only obvious because it's still, for us at least, it's still apparel. It's very close to your body. It's very individual. So you want to see how this fits on other people's bodies, ideally as close to yours as possible, which is something as a future trend, if you ask me, I'd see going to, as in morphing and virtual reality and whatnot. I'll leave it to the tech guys to develop that, but ultimately, again, seeing how that product looks on you is a key question that every single consumer still asks. And you don't want to have a website that is transactional and just shows you the front and the back and the side and gives you color code and the sizing. No, you want to make sure this is what it looks, this is how it'll be. And user-generated content also plays a big role there.
Or the product is so hot that you don't really care how it's displayed. And I think the hype products, they can really just throw on the wall, on the floor, and it's going to get sold like this. So I think this is like where circles are right, because the best online shop in the industry I know, Kith, they never put it on models. They just put it on the floor and really have a beautiful shooting, So you know.
But at that, I don't disagree. It's a different sale, however, that you make. For what I was talking about, you talk about a consumer trying to make a selection. For you, the decision to buy something is done, basically. And then yes, you can just put it here and just shoot it from your mobile picture because he wants that product. All he wants is to find a website that ships it to him, as you said, right? But if you have a potential buyer who is still at the decision-making process, and you want to bring across the advantages of that product, I don't think something like that will do the trick.